Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your Evelyn host, Shorty, and today we're going to be talking about killing Immortals. All of them, especially these ones in this comic book. First off, I want to say, great title, love it. Kill All Immortals just sounds brilliant. It sounds like the candy's going to grab me in. Not just that, but it's also involving Norse mythology and such things like that, which are also in my wheelhouse. And I was like, yeah, go on, I'll check this out. And then it seemed to take forever to come out. I don't know exactly how long it has been, but it feels like it's been months and months and months longer than it usually would be. But Zach Clappen's involved, and even though I haven't necessarily loved every single thing he's done, he's always intrigued me. He's always put stuff out which made me want to pay attention, and on multiple occasions I have actually loved what he's done. In this particular case, he's also working with an artist I've never really encountered before called Faiko Osio, and I don't know much about them at all, but I was intrigued because some of the stuff I'd seen looked like it had an almost Michael Turner Fathom-esque kind of vibe to it, and he's an artist I do admire, but some of the stuff he does feels a little bit, I don't know, exploitative and also very overproduced and sometimes computer-coloured kind of stuff which I don't particularly like. So, in this case, I was looking for something a little bit more down-to-earth, something a little bit more scratchy, the kind of artwork that looks like it's a work of passion rather than just trying to accomplish a product. And I'll say that because I think quite a lot of the DC and Marvel in-house style kind of stuff looks like it's more done to be like, the aim is to be professional-looking rather than the aim is to show heart and emotion and passion for something. And in this one, we absolutely see that. We see it in the character designs where there is hair out of place and clothes ruffled up, and when we get to the action sequences, and the action sequences are delightful. We get to see characters in motion, but also posed in ways which look both dramatic and realistic. And I say realistic, I kind of have to put a bit of a caveat on here. It's not like I claim to be an expert in close combat, but I know quite a few people who do actual enactment and close combat with real-life weapons, and they tell me enough about this kind of thing, about how fights should work in the real world rather than in movies and TV shows, and I see a lot of that in the posing here, but it also looks very dramatic and dynamic. They don't need to show motion because we are just seeing motion in the terms of there is somebody sliding across the floor, axe held high, blood splattering everywhere, and a limb being cut off. It does everything it needs to do. Not just that, there's also wonderful lighting to show dramatic tension, some fantastic interplay of shadow and light, a wonderful bit of three-point perspective, which is fantastic. And also, I can't stress this enough, at one point we get a scene where we see rain dropping in puddles reflected in a window, but the main focus is the person behind the window. And that level of artistry that goes into putting that together, to frame that as it is just spectacular. Like, no bad notes on that whatsoever. When we come to the writing, there is one minor note I did have when I was reading it, and that's about halfway point. I wasn't quite getting the pacing of what they were doing. It starts with like this really tense action sequence, which drip feeds in, peppers in some world building and some character background. Never so much that it gets in the way of the actual action. That's the point of this sequence. The other stuff is just there to make the things happen later on make more sense. But then we get this kind of prolonged period of quiet with a very unusual short action beat in the middle of it, and it struck me that it felt out of place. It felt odd, especially when we ramp up the tension towards the action at the end of it. It was only when I got to the end and realised that that little beat was there to just be a beat, to show we don't know what's going to happen, we don't have a handle on what's going on because the world is not what we think it is, which is what happens when we get to the end, and there is the twist ending, the reveal as it were. And I say twist ending, I don't really think anyone is going to be surprised by it if you're at all literate and are aware of mythology and storytelling conventions, and, well, you paid attention to the title of the comic book. But one thing I do like is the people in the world don't know this, they don't know their own story, and I sometimes find it frustrating that characters in shows and TV shows and movies, all that kind of thing, when the unfathomable happens, they seem to get their head around it really quickly. As somebody who spends an awful lot of time reading fiction and science fiction and fantasy and mythology and horror and all this kind of thing, if I lived in a world where all of a sudden the unreal became real, I would not believe it. I would push back against it. I'd probably go into shock. I'd be terrified. I'd be amazed. I would be disbelieving. And it's kind of nice to see in the world that we're getting here, there is no like, oh my god, yes, cool, it all makes sense now. People are like, what? And I kind of like that. It works really nicely. I will say, if I'm going to give one minor criticism though, the woman on the cover there is carrying a bearded axe, and I'm a big fan of bearded axes in general, and throughout the rest of the comic, when she turns up, in fact, when anyone turns up, and there are fights with a variety of weapons, I don't see another bearded axe, and I'm vaguely disappointed by that. I know it's probably going to come back later. I know it's probably foreshadowing some amazing bearded axe reveal that's speaking to me as a fan of Viking warfare and medieval weaponry, but Just felt a bit disappointed it wasn't in the first issue. That's it for me for today, though. There's a whole bunch of stuff out this week. I promise I'm going to try and review as many of them as I can, fitting with my very busy schedule. Until I see you all again, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.